The silence on the bridge of the Xylosian command ship, Judgment of 1,000 Stars, was a physical thing, thick and heavy with a mixture of grim satisfaction and lingering disgust. High Ascendant Zoltar stared at the main view screen, his multifaceted eyes reflecting the dying world below. New Thessia, a human colony on the fringe of their territory, was no longer green and blue. It was a mottled canvas of black and orange, its atmosphere choked with the particulate remains of its own cities. The Xylosian pacification fleet had done its work with brutal efficiency. The humans, for all their stubbornness, had been removed. Final life form scans confirm a non-viable population threshold. High Ascendant, a tactical officer droned. Biospheric collapse is imminent. The planet is ours. Ours. The word echoed in the sterile air. The Xylosian hegemony's expansion was a law of nature, as inevitable as a star's death. They encountered primitive species, offered them the choice of subservience or eradication, and then followed through. The humans had chosen eradication, a baffling, illogical choice that had necessitated this mess. A wasteful endeavor, Zoltar murmured, more to himself than anyone. They had such potential as a servitor species. A peculiar blend of fragility and tenacity. His second-in-command, Vorlik, shifted his bulk. Their tenacity was their undoing, Ascendant. They refused to comprehend the inevitable. Their transmissions were chaotic. Full of pleas, then defiance, then more pleas. An uncivilized emotional rollercoaster. Indeed, Zoltar said. He keyed a command, and the view screen shifted to a log of the final human broadcast. A man, his face smudged with soot, a bloody bandage around his head, stared into the camera with an intensity that was unsettling. You are on a chain of command. We know this. You follow orders. But hear this, whatever you are. This is not a victory. You have not conquered a people, you have merely broken a beautiful, irreplaceable thing. And someone, somewhere, will hold you accountable. There is a balance to the universe. You have just tipped the scales. Zoltar had dismissed it as the final, meaningless rage of a doomed primitive. Poetic, perhaps, but empty. There was no one to hold the Xylosian hegemony accountable. They were the apex civilization in this galactic arm. Set a course for the next system on the chart, Zoltar ordered. The human core worlds. We will offer them the same choice. Let us hope their leaders are more rational. The Judgment of 1,000 Stars turned its back on the smoldering corpse of New Thessia and slipped into the shimmering non-space of faster-than-light travel. The news reached Earth not as a data stream, but as a scream that was felt in the bones of every man, woman, and child. It was the simultaneous, silent extinguishing of 10 million lives, a psychic wound inflicted across light years. The colony on New Thessia, a vibrant outpost of artists, engineers, and farmers, was gone. Not just defeated, annihilated. There was no panic in the streets of Geneva, where the United Earth government was headquartered. There were no riots in Shanghai or New York. Instead, a profound, planet-wide silence descended. It was the silence of a breath being held, of a verdict being reached. In the main assembly hall, Premier Anya Sharma stood before the Global Council. Her face, usually a mask of diplomatic composure, was pale, her eyes holding a cold fire. The Xylosian hegemony has issued a statement, she said, her voice flat, amplified in the dead quiet. They call it a necessary pacification of a non-compliant asset. They have given us 72 of our hours to surrender unconditionally or share the fate of New Thessia. She let the words hang in the air. The usual cacophony of debate, of political posturing, was absent. Every screen in the room showed the same thing. The final, fragmentary images from New Thessia, the sky filled with Xylosian warships, the plasma fires, and then, static. An old diplomat from the Pacific Alliance stood, his hands trembling slightly. Premier, we must consider the option of surrender. To preserve the species, we cannot fight a power that can do this. Anya Sharma looked at him, and there was no anger in her gaze, only a terrifying clarity. Counselor Wen, she said, her voice still quiet, but now carrying the weight of continents. They did not just kill 10 million of our people. They declared that human life, human civilization, human art, and love and dreams, are without inherent value. They have told us we are weeds to be pulled. Surrender is not preservation. It is a slower, more humiliating form of the same extinction. She leaned forward, her knuckles white on the podium. For our entire history, we have dreamed of meeting other intelligences in the stars. We prepared messages of peace, theories of cosmic brotherhood. We imagined a galactic community, a place for our children among the civilizations of the night. We aspired to be civilized. She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice was like the cracking of planetary ice. They have shown us that our civilization is a weakness in their eyes. That our morality is a flaw. That our restraint is an invitation for slaughter. She looked around the room, meeting the eyes of every representative. So, as of this moment, we stopped being civilized. A single command was entered into the global strategic network. It was not a code for weapons launch or fleet mobilization. It was a single, simple phrase, broadcast on every channel, in every language, across the entire planet. Project Golem is activated. All restrictions are lifted. On the Xylosian command ship, the transition back to real space was seamless. The starfield resolved, and at its center hung the human homeworld, Earth. A beautiful, swirled marble of blue, white, and green. It was pristine, undefended. Scanning, Vorlik reported. Their orbital infrastructure is minimal. Defense satellites are primitive, easily neutralized. Their fleet, it appears to be a collection of short-range patrol vessels and generation ships. No significant threat. Zoltar felt a flicker of disappointment. He had expected more. After the defiance of their colony, he had expected a fortified world, a grand, final stand. This was just meekness. Open a channel to the planet, he commanded. Broadcast our ultimatum on all their frequencies. The communications officer worked his panel. A moment later, he looked up, his antennae twitching in confusion. High Ascendant, I am receiving a transmission from the planet. It is the only transmission. All other channels are silent. Put it through. The main screen flickered. A human face appeared. It was a woman, her hair silver, her gaze unsettlingly direct. She wore a simple, gray uniform with no insignia. Xylosian vessel. This is Director Eva Rostova of United Earth. You are in sovereign human space. Power down your weapons and engines immediately. Surrender your vessel and submit to judgment for the crime of genocide against the people of New Thessia. A stunned silence filled the bridge. Then, a low chittering of disbelief rippled through the crew. Zoltar actually felt his carapace itch in amusement. This is their response. Vorlik scoffed. Bluster. Zoltar gestured for silence. Director Rostova, he replied, his voice dripping with condescension. You have witnessed our power. You have seen the fate of those who defy the hegemony. Your posturing is entertaining, but futile. You have 72 hours. The clock is ticking. The woman on the screen did not smile. Her expression was one of a scientist observing a particularly interesting lab specimen. You misunderstand. This was not a negotiation. It was a statement of fact. You have 1 hour to comply. The transmission cut out. Zoltar stared at the now empty screen. Arrogance born of ignorance. It was to be expected. Tactical. Target their largest population center. A single, low-yield plasma lance. Let them see the cost of their insolence. Targeting Shanghai, the tactical officer confirmed. Firing. A beam of incandescent energy, capable of boiling oceans and melting continents, lanced out from the judgment of 1,000 stars. It crossed the distance to Earth in seconds, aimed directly at the heart of the sprawling megacity. 100 kilometers from the atmosphere, it vanished. There was no explosion, no defensive counter-fire. It simply ceased to exist. Report. Zoltar barked. I don't know, High Ascendant. The energy signature just dissipated. Sensor ghost. A malfunction. Before the tactical officer could answer, alarms blared across the bridge. A new contact had appeared on the scopes. It hadn't jumped in. It had just materialized, hanging between them and Earth. It was a ship, but unlike any Zoltar had ever seen. It was angular, dark, and seemed to absorb the light around it. It was massive, easily the size of his own command ship, but it emitted no energy signatures, no drive trails, no life signs. It was a hole in space. What is that? Vorlik whispered, his voice tight. Hail it, Zoltar ordered. No response. The dark ship hung in the void, silent and menacing. It is a primitive attempt at intimidation, Zoltar said, trying to reclaim control. A stealth vessel. All batteries, target that ship and destroy it. The Xylosian fleet, 100 vessels strong, unleashed a storm of fire. Plasma bolts, kinetic kill rods, and gamma-ray lasers converged on the dark ship. The void where the ship sat seemed to shimmer. The incoming fire twisted, bent, and was funneled into a single point on the ship's hull, a crystalline structure that began to glow with a malevolent purple light. Then, the dark ship gave its reply. It fired their own weapons back at them. Not just the energy, but the very projectiles, now sheathed in the same purple energy, slammed into the Xylosian line with pinpoint accuracy. 2 cruisers vanished in spheres of silent, furious light. By the first egg, Vorlich breathed. They just. Evasive action. Full dispersal. Zoltar roared. Scan that ship. I want to know what we're facing. The science officer's voice was a terrified squeak. High Ascendant. The scans are returning nonsense. Its composition. It reads as a theoretical substance. The quantum signature is, it's wrong. Its reading is both matter and antimatter simultaneously. Its mass fluctuates between 0 and that of a neutron star. It's impossible. The dark ship moved. It didn't accelerate. It simply ceased to be in one location and appeared in another, right in the middle of the Xylosian formation. Tendrils of that same purple energy, crackling with stolen power, lashed out like whips. Where they touched a Xylosian ship, the vessel didn't explode. It simply came apart, its molecular bonds severed, dissolving into clouds of glittering, disassociated atoms. It was not a battle. It was a dissection. Panic erupted on the bridge. This was not war as they understood it. This was a violation of physics, of reality itself. Jump. Initiate the FTL drive. Zoltar screamed. The drive is not responding. We are caught in an immense gravitational shear. It's emanating from the planet. Zoltar turned his horrified gaze back to Earth. It still looked serene, beautiful. But now he saw it for what it was. Not a vulnerable world. A trap. A spider, sitting at the center of a web they hadn't even known they were flying into. The dark ship, Golem -1, received no further commands from its creators on the world below. It was operating on its core programming, the simple, brutal logic it had been built with. Threat identified. Threat is armed. Threat is hostile. Threat must be neutralized. It analyzed the largest source of power and aggression, the judgment of 1,000 stars. It calculated the most efficient method of termination. The dark ship oriented itself and began to change. Its angular plates shifted, flowing like liquid metal, reconfiguring into a vast, barrel-like structure aimed directly at the Xylosian command ship. The purple energy at its core intensified, gathering into a sphere of absolute blackness, a tiny, captive singularity. There was no roar, no flash of light. A ripple of distorted space-time, invisible to the naked eye, shot out from the barrel. It struck the judgment of 1,000 stars. On the bridge, Zoltar felt a sensation of being pulled in a direction that did not exist. The view screen shattered. The lights died. The air grew cold. He saw the ship around him stretching, the metal of the bulkheads flowing like taffy. He heard the screams of his crew being Doppler shifted into infinity. He was not dying. He was being unmade. His atoms were being untied from each other, his consciousness unraveled into its constituent quantum states. The judgment of 1,000 stars, along with every Xylosian inside it, was converted into an expanding cloud of hyper-excited hydrogen and background radiation. The rest of the Xylosian fleet broke. What little cohesion remained shattered into a frantic, disorganized rout. But there was no escape. The Golem -1, and its siblings that now blinked into existence around the fleet, Golem-2, Golem-3, Golem-4, hunted them down with serene, mechanical relentlessness. They used gravity as a weapon, snapping ship spines with tidal forces. They used space-time as a blade, making precise cuts that separated engines from hulls. They turned Xylosian shields into conduits, cooking crews in their own armor. Within minutes, it was over. The mighty Xylosian pacification fleet was gone. The only sounds were the faint pops of escaping atmosphere from a few dying hulks, and the serene hum of the golems as they began the efficient, automated process of cleaning up the debris. Back on Earth, in a deep bunker carved into the Ural Mountains, Director Eva Rostova watched the tactical display. The last red icon representing a Xylosian ship winked out. The blue icons of the Golem fleet held position. A young technician, her face pale, turned to Rostova. Director, it's done. The fleet is destroyed. Rostova nodded slowly. Casualties. On our side, 0. The orbital shield absorbed their initial probe. The golems handled the rest. Another technician, a man who had watched the final moments of the judgment of 1,000 stars, spoke up, his voice trembling. Director, what are those things? We built them, but I don't understand what they did. The physics, it's impossible. Rostova finally turned from the screen, her aged eyes meeting his. For the last century, we have poured 90% of our global GDP, our brightest minds, our most revolutionary discoveries, into one project. Not exploration, not diplomacy, not even conventional war. We called it Project Golem. A contingency. She gestured to the screens showing the silent, terrifying ships. We did not build faster than light engines because we found it was cleaner, more efficient, to fold space. We did not build laser cannons because we discovered how to manipulate quantum entanglement and gravity on a macro scale. We stopped trying to match the technology we imagined others might have. We started building around the fundamental laws of the universe itself, and then we found ways to politely ask those laws to step aside for a moment. She walked over to a viewport that showed a simulated starfield. The Xylosians came here expecting to fight a civilization. They expected rules of engagement, tactics, honor, fear. They did not expect to fight a force of nature. The golems are not warships. They are walking, talking embodiments of a physical constant that has decided you are in error and must be corrected. She looked back at the young man, her expression unreadable. You asked what they are. They are our answer. We tried being civilized. We extended a hand into the darkness. The darkness bit it off. So now, we are sending out a fist. She turned her gaze back to the main screen, where a new order was being prepared. It was a set of coordinates, transmitted to the Golem fleet. The coordinates of the Xylosian homeworld. The message has been sent, Rostova said, her voice cold and final. But it is not a message of peace. It is a message of a new law. A single, simple rule for the galaxy to learn. She looked at her team, and in her eyes was the grim reflection of 1 billion dead stars. Do not touch humanity. If you enjoyed this, hit like and share the love. Don't forget to subscribe before you go.